How many children do you have?
I have 8, Iori.
A girl, 7 boys after.
7 boys.
The Forsyth family children, all of them have traditional Japanese names, which I like. How did you come up with those names?
Lots of movement. Throw them up in the air. Well, luckily I caught them.
Gentle, please.
So will you have a Japanese first name and an English middle name, or did you get discriminated against as a bicultural mixed race child and get called hafu, and you'll take the same risk with your child?
大家族フォーサイス家のJoeです。
ダディです。
前の動画で発表があったと思いますが、嬉しいニュースがありました。父親になるということで、8人の父親である伊織のお父さん、ダディことジムにいろいろアドバイスをもらおうと思います。
You want advice on being a father?
Exactly. So I'll be asking some questions. Starting with basic question, how many children do you have?
I have 8, 1 girl and 7 boys. Iori.
A girl, 7 boys after.
7 boys, yeah. More chance of winning Test Lotto.
So how did it feel like when you found out that such a girl was pregnant and leading up to the birth of Iori? What did you feel like?
It was exciting, and
How old were you?
I turned 35 just around the time of Iori's birth. Same month. A bit advanced age for average people in those days. Usually men got married at 30 and women, the average was 26, 27. And I'm 6 years older than Mum, so that's fairly normal.
Were you nervous?
No, I took it in my stride. Everyone went to the same hospital, the general base hospital. So I just listened to her after her doctor visits, and everything's going okay, and she was always eating well, and it was like plain sailing.
When did it start to feel real? Oh, I'm going to become a father. Iori's going to be in her second trimester soon. I'm starting to feel like, oh, I'm going to be a dad, and sometimes I have dreams about having a child. When did that reality start to kick in?
I think we started preparing for baby's room, I guess. We had a cot for the baby to sleep in, thinking about how to travel in the car, so we had to get a baby seat, what we call a capsule. So we had to get some extra straps in the car, because the cars then weren't fitted. We had to get something fitted especially. So I did the car type things, she did the clothing. We didn't know boy or girl, I think. I can't remember. Mm-hmm.
Too many gender reveals.
How was the gender revealed?
At birth, I think. Yeah.
At birth? So it wasn't
It's a
echo?
girl. Well, if she knew, she didn't tell me. Maybe I said I didn't want to know. Yeah, I can't remember knowing beforehand, so I think...
So when did you name her?
The name was chosen beforehand. It was Sachiko's chosen name.
She had that name
in her mind. So I had a boy's name and a girl's name, middle name ready.
What was the boy's middle name?
Francis can be a boy's name.
Yeah.
Just
Right.
the spelling is different.
It's gender neutral.
My grandfather was Francis, so it comes from my grandfather. But because he was a girl, we just changed the CIS ending to CES, slightly different.
Did you have a preference with regards to gender?
No, anything is okay. I'd never had a sister, so there might be a slight favouritism towards a daughter, but I didn't care. I wasn't worried about either. But 7 boys.
Was it different raising a girl as opposed to boys?
No, we didn't treat them any differently, because I think we didn't fuss over Iori like a girl. We didn't do things just because she's a girl. We just treated her like a child. So I don't know that we did much different. There was no differentiation. We didn't protect Iori like a precious little girl. And
Because I remember I was wearing all these Hello Kitties or Sailor Moon t-shirts. Yeah, obviously they weren't really treating us differently.
yeah, we handed clothes down also. So the boys had no choice but to wear some of Iori's first clothes as she grew up.
And
so
I think Oriton, Arima refused to wear Iori's old clothes, but I didn't.
It's going to be Iori and my child, so Iori's DNA will be passed on, obviously. So the child may take after a lot of Iori's personalities. So my question is, what was Iori like when she was a baby?
She was so energetic and always moving, and she got into lots of trouble with me for making noise. We had a harness, we call it, a strap, after she could walk.
It's usually for a dog, isn't it?
They're made to fit children, but she was so active, if we went shopping or on a train trip, tended to run away. So she was restrained, otherwise you might have a lost child. And the station master said, has anybody seen a little kid running around without parents? Please return it to the station master. We didn't want to be Tokyo Station with a lost baby. So will you travel when you have a young child? Because when Iori was 10 days old, I think she took her first jet flight.
10 days?
Yeah, my grandmother died, so we suddenly had to go for the funeral. Very young baby. And people said, "Why you're travelling with such a small baby? It's easy, no trouble." And we did a 2-week Japan rail trip around Japan when she was 2 and Arima was 10 weeks. So travelling with kids is okay.
The Forsyth family children, all of them have unique names, traditional Japanese names, which I like. How did you come up with those names?
Sachiko chose Iori from way before even thinking of having children because it was a name she liked from the time that she did kendo. There's some connection between martial arts and Iori was a historical character.
I heard Iori is the adopted child of Miyamoto Musashi, who's a legendary samurai.
And also she said it can be a boy or a girl, so I thought, suitable if we don't know the sex of the baby.
So there was no argument about who's naming the child?
No, and the middle name was my choice, so I chose also a name that can be a boy or a girl.
That's a good idea, to have like a unisex name.
And then I happened to be reading a translated Japanese poetry book, and I found one author, Prince Arima, and I liked that name Arima, and Satsuko agreed if we had a second child, the boy would be Arima. The third child, we were doing a 2-week Japan rail trip around Japan, and at one place in Hokkaido I saw a road sign saying Orito Interchange. So it's just a location on a highway in Hokkaido.
Does he know that?
Don't tell him. It suited my purpose, O and O.
Very meaningful.
Getting good ideas, for instance, I think having a gender-neutral name is a good idea because you can plan ahead and discuss that name before the child is born.
So will you have a Japanese first name and an English Romaji type middle name, or the other way around?
Because our surnames are both English surnames, so we're thinking of giving the child a Japanese first name. Now, they may not look Japanese because we're both half Japanese and we don't look.
So they'll be quarter. They'll still be half Japanese.
They'll be half Japanese, but to pass on that Japanese heritage. If he or she has a Japanese first name, then it'll be easy for that child to introduce themselves as a Japanese Australian. So we're thinking of a Japanese name, and maybe to have a gender-neutral name is a good idea. いろいろ今名前も考えてますので、皆さんもおすすめの名前あったらコメント欄にお願いします。What kind of grandfather do you want?
I'll do the same things as the way I treated my kids. Lots of movement.
Gentle, please.
Well, I didn't do gentle with them, but
No, not gentle.
Look what happened.
You used to
throw them up in the air. Well, luckily I caught them, but I used to hold them by the side of the head and they would dangle. Or one hand, one leg when they're small and just spin them around.
Yeah.
But that's because when I was in high school I read a book, How to Raise a Brighter Child. So I always remembered some of those things where the author wrote that it helps to give as much sensory stimulation, auditory, smelling, and lots of massaging. Not violent movement, but exaggerated movement that you don't normally do on a regular basis. You have to go out and show them colours, noises, smells, and tastes. So we were putting things in the kid's mouth as a taste. So yeah, that's theory of child development.
I hope that theory has stood the test of time. It's been, 50 years?
Well, some of them are failures, some failures.
Since the book was published. What kind of characteristics or traits that you would like to see in your grandchild from you?
Best of me. Good to have a sense of humour. Free-spirited, yep. And take a risk. I was too much of a risk taker, I think, sometimes. You have to take a risk to build up your self-confidence. Because if you never fail, and then one day in middle life you fail, you don't know what failure feels like. So it's better to fail when you're growing up. These little failures are okay.
So I want my child to grow up in both Japan and Australia. And I think Japan, when it comes to primary school, it teaches you discipline and teaches you how to clean your room and a bit of conformity. You become a hard worker. Also, you have kyushoku, school meals, and you're supposed to eat everything. So I think that's also good for the child. It gives you a foundation of Japanese, because Japanese is not an easy language to learn. I am envisioning sending my child to a Japanese primary school.
Did you get discriminated against as a bicultural mixed race child and get called hafu, and you'll take the same risk with your child?
I have been picked on a few times, but I think even if I weren't a hafu, even if I were a pure like 100% Japanese, I would have been picked on for other reasons.
Just your nature or your personality at the child stage?
I wasn't picked on all the time because I was pretty good at sport. I was quite academic. So there are other areas in which you can exceed and gain respect from other students. So I'm not really concerned about bullying at school. I'm more thinking of making sure that the child has even just one thing that they can be proud of themselves. It could be music, it could be sport, anything that can make them feel that they are good at something.
Last question. Any advice that you can give to Yuri and Joe?
Call me when you need babysitter.
Really?
Yeah, well, I'm happy to babysit if you know that I'm not going to hang them by their head or turn them upside down. Follow your parenting rules.
Right there in the parenting guidelines. Could you say a few words to our first child? He or she might be seeing this in 10, 20 years' time. Anything you want to say?
I'm glad to be your grandfather and have a grandchild from Joe and Iori. I look forward to seeing you grow up and take part in your development. Come stay with me or I'll come visit you. Welcome to my world.
You need to stay healthy and...
Yeah, I have to stay healthy for you. Yeah.
大家族フォーサイス家。
はい、今回ダディにいろいろと話を聞いて最後アドバイスとあと10年後20年後かわかんないけど子供に向けたメッセージももらいました、皆さんも子育てをした方たくさんいると思いますので経験者の皆さんからアドバイスたくさんコメント欄にお待ちしてます。So,
for those people who are watching this video, please like and subscribe this YouTube channel for the Daikazuku Foresights. Okay.
See you in the next video.
Bye bye.
3, 2, 1, go.
大家族フォーサイス家の
Again. 3, 2, 1.
大家族フォーサイス家のジョーと
ダディです。
Maybe just you.
Okay.